Warlock. And this can really set the tone of the game, because the one that wins the first game in the mirror matchup, he then gets beaten by his counter, but then he can counter the counter, and then it goes on, and then you suddenly have 3-2 in the end.
Yes. Winning mirrors in last year's standing is just so absolutely pivotal to the likelihood of your success in the series. And, you know, as we were saying, Hoej does have a pretty good advantage going into the series, with Black Knight as a lovely little tech inclusion. Mossy Horror probably won't be too valuable for Hoej, but that is another difference in the deck list, in that Hoej has the Mossy Horror, Fino does not.
When you're seeing here now with the hands they're both having, they're going to be tapping the first few turns, but the Hoej got both the Drakes and the Mountain Giant now, which is huge, while Fino is just sitting on the one Twilight Drake and a bunch of other smaller cards that in the end doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, this matchup does often come down to, like in the old Q-Block mirrors, just the first Giant being so important, which obviously you get to go first as Hoej. Turn 3 Mountain Giant, even without having to spend the coin, is a great way to get things rolling. So for Fino...
Without spending the coin on the Mountain Giant.
Yeah,
coining out Mountain Giant is an amazing play.
I realized, I knew it was stupid as soon as I said it.
Well, if you have the APM though, and you might do it then. You're seeing here though the Mountain Giant coming down on board without a definitive answer from Fino, and he played down the Ooze just to have something to challenge whatever Hoej can place down. But now Fino is just stopping up a little bit just to, how do you assess this situation? How do you go forward from this? Because these Mountain Giants are just going to eat through everything you have or just punch you in the face.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I was looking at Vulgar Homunculus, I have to be honest, as the 2-drop of choice to throw down on turn 3, because that's one of the ways I find you can even the playing field if your opponent goes Giant first, because you play this taunt in the way. So then on the following turn, as we saw here from Fino, whether you're playing Drake or Giant there, they have something in the way. The Giant can't immediately, you know, go for face and put you on the back foot. They have to trade something in. Clearly here, though, Hoej does have the ability to push this Mountain Giant through to face. Whether he wants to, though, is a different concern entirely.
Yeah, because seeing as Fino didn't play a Giant to answer this Giant, this means also he has other cards in the hand, and he's afraid of the Hook River.
Yeah.
If you punch face now, a tap Hooked River is...
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It puts up a 7-7, and yeah, 7-7 taunt it's pretty good for 4 mana. But he says like, well, I'm going to be the aggressor.
Yeah, I think I still like going face here with the Mountain Giant, because the Twilight Drake, it's not like if you go face, they can go tap Hooked Reaver and trade, and then you're miles behind on board. Your Giant survives in that scenario. It's really not that bad.
It kills the Hooked Reaver, yeah.
Exactly. And if you're going for trade into the Twilight Drake, and then, I don't know, they could go for something could go wrong. Even if they just trade back, you don't want your Giant to be equal to a Twilight Drake. You want to be on the offensive. You had the coin, and that gives you the benefit of being able to go face first.
And this is also amazing from Hoej. He's basically also doing what I love when players do. They're basically saying, well, you have all these plays that maybe punishes going face here, but if you don't have it, I'm in such a great position. You're getting quite low. You have to take, you can less taps because you're afraid of your health total. And still, even if the Hooked Reaver isn't that bad, because you traded with the Giant.
Yeah, no, Fino's shaking his head. He is not happy with this play, but if he's just throwing away Hooked Reavers to die to the Giants, he's so far behind in just hand value. He loses one of the best threats here in the Hooked Reaver. So if we actually look at the board state now, it's obviously bad for him. He's pretty decidedly behind, but Hooked Reaver can start to turn this around, which is really what he needs to be doing. He can't have his Hooked Reavers just eaten up by damaged Mountain Giants.
We're seeing Hoej now stopping now as well to think, because you have to think about a few turns now. What does this play from Fino signal to him? Is it signaling that he doesn't have Hooked Reaver, or was it signaling that this just was a better play than playing Hooked Reaver last turn?
That's fair. Good point.
So he is like thinking, well, if he has Hooked Reaver and that was just a better play, what would I have done in this situation? And he is thinking now, well, how can I punish if a Hooked Reaver gets played next turn? And this is the consideration if he wants to play the Twilight Drake, if he wants to go wider for having much of small dudes to punch into the Hooked Reaver. Really decidedly go for the 4-10, the biggest Twilight Drake you can get, unless you do like some Hysteria stuff.
I think I like this. It was some lovely analysis there, Delta, but at the end of the day, the biggest dude you can throw down tends to be a pretty good way to go about it.
And I love this card, though. The hand mechanic for Warlock is basically having a big hand, has been since really early Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Like Twilight Drakes has been staple, Mountain Giants has been staple, and Molten Giant before the nerf was staple to like really solidify a good base for this for this hand lock style. And now we're evolved into the even lock, which can tap on turn 1 instead, and suddenly you have a whole different beast of things. And it's funny to see it still alive in 2018.
I mean, I'm surprised to see even Warlock as a deck at all. Do you remember when it was like first being thrown around as a bit of a meme?
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, I've got a giant on turn 3, how cute.
But then if you get enough good giants or turn 4 with big drakes, it just works
It
for some
does
reason.
just work.
And here Fino is also thinking long and loud about how this, because these two drakes now value trades into this Hooked Reaver due to the health on them. Like 410, it's a big.
He doesn't even have Hellfire, he doesn't have Defile, no way to take out the Drakes afterwards. They'd go down to, what, 1 and 3 health respectively, so I guess his small minions can start to fight back against that. He really just has to hope that the Black Knight tech is not in Hoej's hand more than anything else. Thankfully for his sake, we can see that particular tech card is not available yet for Hoej. Can't even tap into it. Oh no, wait, he could go, if you want to do coin tap into Black Knight for the absolute god play.
Yeah, I think he wants to save coin for something more important. He has 2 8-mana cards that looks really juicy to play out later. Here now, though, for Hoej is like trying to maximize out damage and how he can get through this wall without losing way too much. He can lose 1 Drake and clear the whole board with the Defiled Hellfire if he does it in the right order. And just punch 4 more damage to face, and the Hellfire basically nulled out with the armor gain from the Beetle. Putting him down to 4, which is... It's a health total where Fino can't tap, because a second Hellfire will just kill him.
It sets up for coin Lich King, coin Bone Mare if you still have a minion on board. Yeah, I think this is the way to go. Hoej's biggest advantage here isn't hand size, it isn't even necessarily board state for long. It's damage through to face.
Yeah, because he chose not to use the Defile as well, damaging his Drake further 1 and being able to push for face. Going the less aggressive route, but keeping some of the cards. Like we saw earlier, like how Defile, even though it's not the Godfrey, it can clear a full board after Gul'dan. So he's probably hedging his bet by having something else for later, not putting all the eggs in one basket, basically.
Yeah, I guess this still does set up a
really good ball.
A good lethal, unless they put a taunt in the way. And with that Spellbreaker off the top, that's 6 damage through to face, 2 off.
Yeah, had he done the play that I suggested, he would have been...
All right.
But this is close, though. He can do a really nice value trade now with the Bone Mare and push 2 more damage to face, and still have the Spellbreaker for an oncoming Lich King or a minion with Sun Fury Protector or similar. So he's probably really considering, but he's going to coin out here.
What's the punish then? If you take that, your Twilight Drake would go down to
4-2.
4-2.
No, 4-2. 8-2. Yeah.
Yeah.
2 health. So there's no 1 health minions in Feno's deck.
Hellfire wouldn't save him. Defile wouldn't save him. I think I like it.
Yeah.
The punishes just aren't really there. If Lich King comes down, you can quite happily go for the Spellbreaker, as you pointed out.
This sets up a really good board here, basically.
Yeah.
Just being the game plan of Hoej from early turns when he got the first giant. Just, I'm going to be the aggressor here. You need to be on the defensive the whole time, and I'm hopefully just going to punch you in the face till you die.
That's exactly it. This is all just the legacy of not only Hoej getting the giant on turn 3, but going face, because that wasn't necessarily as easy a decision as it may have looked. He was getting closer to Hooked Reaver, which could have been pretty bad for him. But just the fact that he dealt so much damage through to face so consistently in this game meant that he was, as I think we can see here, led to a fairly easy lethal quite early in the game.
And Hoej's just looking as cute as normal. He's just sitting there, just watching the screen. It's just like, well, this is a normal day of Hearthstone. I've done this 1,000 times. I'm going to do it 1,000 more. Actually, to get some answers to early threats. And we can see this hand of his doesn't really contain that.
Any shield slams, basically.
Yeah. He needs to shield slams
I think
or the BGH. Yeah.
The big point here, yeah. BGH shield slam, really what he's looking for.
Owl
because
is
he knows
also quite good versus the Twilight.
That's
Race.
fair, yeah. Owl is worth considering. Only has one of them in the deck.
The thing is also that seeing as he knows Hoej runs Skulking Geist, getting the shield slam early means that he needs to get him out of the hand really fast just to not just waste them.
And also that might influence not only how Fino plays, trying to use his shield slams very aggressively, it will also influence how Hoej plays, because he doesn't want to throw out his threats before the Geist, have them shield slammed, and then have the Geist do nothing. We've pretty consistently seen people playing you know, a Shroomburr or a 4/4 hooked Reaver over a Mountain Giant or a Twilight Drake because they want to save it until after the Skulking Geist.
Yeah, and if they use the shield slam on that small weenie minion, it's just happening.
Yeah, it does the job anyway.
But it's coming down now. Hoej is getting a lot of the key cards into his hand that he needs to do this matchup. He has the Skulking Geist that's 99% of the time is going to be played on 6.
Yeah. Fino does, however, have a lot of the answers that he's looking for in this matchup. No shield slams to which we were alluding earlier, but Big Game Hunter on its own is an answer to an ominous Mountain Giant, which isn't available for Hoej, as we can see. But Iron Beak Owl, while it won't deal immediately with the Twilight Drake because he can't get that extra 1 damage, should do the job with a Dynamatic on a later turn.
Yeah, and Hoej here just going with the small weenie minions, as we talked about. Instead of going for the Twilight Drake in that turn, it would be a 4/9 Twilight Drake, which is
very impressive.
Yeah, very. Yeah, it's a big dragon, but it's not what he's looking for. And here we see Fino just trying to establish on board presence. Instead of using his removal, he can use minions to just use minions as removal.
And that is when any matchup up against Odd Warrior gets completely miserable. Once they've won board control against you and they can just value trade you turn after turn, play their Dynamatics or anything like that, it just gets completely miserable because you have to play all your damage cards to catch up on the board. They have way too much removal then. They get tempo with Super Colliders. It all just starts to go very wrong.
And you also see here, though, this Elise just perfectly, it value trades into both minions that Hoej plays on the board. It's just like, this is a really good like minion to have on the board. And Hoej is really thinking hard how he should approach this now, because he did the play that he played around shield slams and he want to drop the Geist next turn, but his hand is full. He needs to drop something.
And if he does drop the Twilight Drake and push everything face, that's down to 2 health up to 6. There's no ability to Hero Power Shield Slam it, and I think this is a decent time to get it down as any, because his play clearly indicates he wants to save it until after the Skulking Geist, but this I think is safe enough beforehand, and the next turn he can go with the Geist anyway, follow up with Giant into Lich King very nicely.
Yeah, and seeing as Fino, he knows that Fino only runs 1 Owl, he needs either an Owl or a 2-card combo in Shield Block, Shield Slam, Hero Power to actually get through this. And that would mean he doesn't have enough mana, so it's only Owl basically.
It's pretty much always surviving this turn, which is a good spot to find. If he'd thrown it down on turn 4, could have just been Shield Slammed.
Yeah. And we see now Fino using his silence, because there's not that many other silence targets in the deck, besides the other Drake, of course.
Yes, Hooked Reaver, I guess, is worth considering, but I imagine Fino is hoping to clear those up with Brawl, Reckless Flurry, Super Collider, all that goodness.
Now Hoej, though, he sees that the Owl has to come out on the Drake, and he also knows that there was no other possibility to actually kill it. Just playing the Skulking Geist. It's a 4/6. It's not the biggest minion for 6 mana, but the effect it does is just lovely.
And if there was any dismay from Hoej at the fact that no 1-cost cards were destroyed from Fino's hand, it clearly did not show. And this is a big difference between Nikolai Hoej, who was playing earlier, and his brother Frederick Hoej, who's playing now, is that you just see no emotion from Hoej, ever. He just doesn't give anything away, which is good tournament Hearthstone play. It's a very small edge. It's unlikely that you give your opponent information through visual cues, but it could happen, and we did see from Nikolai Hoej, he was wearing his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah. I was having a discussion about the poker player, about the poker face, basically. In poker, it's much more easier to read people because you either have a good hand or a bad hand.
Right, it's very simple.
But here is much more complex in Hearthstone because you can have a bad reaction to even like a complex hand. So it's much harder to read. But yeah, like we saw at Nikolai, he was much more emotional, and that also might true of the game as well, being more invested into whatever. And Hoej here is just saying like, well, I have the strongest poker face of everyone. Oh, the second.
Yeah.
Like,
Drawing another giant here looks very juicy. I doubt we'll see it come down because Super Collider in one fell swoop would deal with
both.
Two of Hoej's biggest threats he has in the deck. So yeah, Sunfury Protector, while it's significantly less stats, shows a maturity of play that you just can't overextend into the perfect board clear. Even though Fino wouldn't have had it, it still is just way too much risk.
Yeah. He's also running the risk of a really good Reckless Flurry value, which you usually you get them after Gul'dan usually, but
yeah.
but also this one, clearing 2 giants with a Reckless Flurry is, yeah, okay, I lose some armor, but
yeah,
that's worth it.
And we see Fino here just whipping the pack instantly. Yeah. 3 cards, good enough. I'm going to spend my 2 mana here and hope that he gets something good. He didn't really get that. Like Edwin Van Leaf, or Biteweed, as I think it's actually called, is like.
It's not good with the warrior because
like
you have
2 mana 3/3 probably. Yeah.
You have way too many high cost cards to actually use it effectively. He got some low cost cards with it though, so he can actually use it like Binding Heal and all these cards are. The Binding Heal can have some value by actually healing your own minions, but it's not going to get some face healing value. Hoej, on the other hand, now is sitting here. He's noting something down, and he's wondering what he can do. If he plays the Lich King now, he will burn a card. But he has all the options. He does have the second Mountain Giant. He also has a Bone Mare that he can value trade with. So he has like lots of options. And the value trading wasn't the plan here either. It's just going face. And as we said earlier, this is a favorite matchup for the Odd Warrior. And when you're unfavored in the matchup, you have to take a little bit more risks. And playing a bigger board and just pushing face can be one of those risks you can take.
Yeah, I think so far he hasn't been playing too risky. It's kind of been... I agree that he probably should be if he gets the opportunity to, but he's just been following the standard plan, the agreed-upon plan by all the pros that you play your threats not too heavily before turn 6, you play out the Geist, then you play your threats, and you do it a little bit at a time. He's never given good Super Collider value, he's never given good Brawl value, he's destroyed the Shield Slams. Hoej has made Fenomeno's life difficult, but he still had all the answers. Fino's still at 30 health here, more even.
And with the Celiacs on board, that you need to punch through somehow, and the hand of Hoej is getting clunky. He wants to dump some of it because the Lich King now will burn cards, even though he has Gul'dan, which is the card you really don't want to burn.
Yeah.
He also wants to get some more demons in the pool for the Gul'dan, because if you have a decent pool of demons, it needs an answer when you play Gul'dan, and that's always lovely when the warrior has to waste on basically free minions because you're playing it for hero power anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's sitting with 13 cards as well. He knows if this goes to fatigue, he's losing every day of the week.
Yes, yeah. He's not trying to fatigue his opponent. All he's trying to do by playing it slow is get that one turn where, you know, Fino, it's not a perfect explaining, but he blinks. You know, he misses the turn.
Yeah, one turn he
removal.
misses a beat, yeah.
Yeah, and then Hoej can push damage to face for like 12, 13, ramp up the pressure, play Gul'dan, hero power, face, as much as possible.
I mean, seeing here now, Fino is also, he has some removal, but it's not the best type of removal. It's like the Brawl, you're still stuck with a decent-sized minion. The Reckless Fur, you need to spend shield block as well, and then you suddenly lost all the armor again from that. He has the Grievous Bite that can clear one of them. It's like, it's not lovely.
And this is not by coincidence. Like, Hoej has deliberately been making Fino's life as difficult as possible, which is what you need to do against Odd Warrior. Because if you don't think about it, throw down your cards as quick as you possibly can, you will always be finding yourself where they're removing all your minions. You have to know which shapes of different sized minions are awkward for the Odd Warrior to deal with and play to that.
Yeah. And you see here now, Fino was forced to using both the Grievous Bite and the Super Collider as removal, and he had to take 8 damage face to actually get it off, and seeing just it getting oozed away is quite sad for Fino.
Yeah.
Because that card, it costs 5 mana. You're invested that the next 3 turns you will gain back board presence, and you just get removed instantly.
There is the answer to a lot of what Hoej's throwing down, though, I suppose, over the next few turns. Like, we could now just see Hero Power Reckless Flurry, which is a nice way of dealing with this Lich King, as we're going to see Fina going with. You can, even start to refill your armor total and get towards some of those better removal cards instead, with a Bite Weed thrown in as well, because why not?
It's going to be a cute one. It's like a 3-3, yeah.
Yeah.
As you said. Predicted it. You'd seen the future.
Yeah.
Oh, you see
don't
this
tell anyone.
Yeah.
I've got the Blizzard script for this game of how it's going to go, but I wasn't supposed to say that.
You have everything, all the RNG mapped out and everything.
Yeah, just in case anyone from Blizzard is listening. Kappa, by the way, that was a joke. Please don't fire me.
And Hoej's options here, though, he's seen a lot of removal, and he knows there's not that much left.
Yeah, all he really wants to do in the next few turns, like the next stage of his game plan, is Hooked Reavers. He's down to a low enough health total, and he hasn't played Blood Reaver Gul'dan, to the point where he can get down these 7/7s on the board for another 2, maybe 3 turns of threats. Then he plays Gul'dan afterwards, and this is what I am seeing a lot in this matchup at the moment. Is you do not play your Blood Reaver Gul'dan until your Hooked Reavers have been played, as we're probably going to see here.
Getting as much value out of that Gul'dan as possible. Trying to, basically, while Fino is trying to exhaust all the resources of Hoej, Hoej is trying to exhaust all the removal from Fino.
And it is interesting seeing even Warlock played in this matchup. I've casted it so many times recently that it feels like, because even Warlock draws so many cards and its game plan is so consistently identical or very similar because of the fact it draws so many cards, that it's just like discrete stages in your game plan, like boxes you have to check in order to win this matchup. Like, you get the Geist down, then you get your threats down, you lower your health total, you play the Hooked Reavers, you play Gul'dan, and Hoej is just checking all the boxes so far. He's getting a good amount of pressure through, and the onus is really on Fino to find those answers. Can he actually deal with this onslaught, or will it be too much consistent pressure?
Yeah, and the thing is also that for Hoej's sake, that even the Shroom Brewers represent a decent threat, because they just chip away armor. Just like, one Shroom Brewer is basically nullifying your 2 mana each turn. And stuff like this is building up over some time. And you see also Fino here is forced to use his second Reckless Flurry, which is also really sad, because that's one of the best removals for a Blood Reaver Gul'dan board.
And I don't know if he's got in his mind that Frostmourne could be a card here. That Hoej could have got Frostmourne off of the Lich King, but he's holding back the Gluttonous Ooze. He probably just thinks that Shield Block was the best play to draw him closer to some taunts or removal. But it could work out pretty well for him, because that Frostmourne, if it's not oozed, is just a lot of damage through to face.
Yeah, or just a lot of value, because you can resummon 3 more minions that actually hurt you.
Yeah.
When you only have 2 brawls left for large boards.
Yeah.
And so it's getting smaller and smaller in terms of removal. His shield slams are gone. He has the Dynamatics as a sort of removal, but they're best when you have Dr. Boom active, because then you get the rush effect as well. But Hoej are just making basically the equal board that they did last time with the 7/7, and now a 4/4 instead of just saying, well, you have removal for this, and Fino doesn't, so he has to do the cheeky play with the Faceless, which is the Faceless is in there for actually different purposes, but it's used to this in this matchup, though.
Well, yeah, it's different for each matchup, isn't it? The whole point of the card is it's so versatile. You lose a little bit of power often because of that. When you have to, it floats around in your hand for a while. You don't always have a good target. But in situations like this, it is just fine. You throw it down for another wall in the way. Pray they haven't found the Black Knight by now, despite the fact that Hoej can't have more than 6-7 cards left in his deck. He's tapped through the vast majority of it.
Yeah, for Hoej's sake, he needs to soon find out like the second plan of attack here, because he's running dangerously into fatigue area, and if he doesn't have enough pressure on the warrior by then, he will soonly die out of just heavy fatigue.
And that means he wants to get as much Gul'dan value as possible throughout this game.
Considering the Frostmourne here, and just to get another Hooked Reaver into it, it clears up the board pretty easily. But he puts him down quite low, though, to 9 health. But it doesn't matter when you play Gul'dan, because the warrior has nothing from hand. You have 3 from Super Collider. That's your face damage.
It's unfortunate with the way that Spellstone is worded that attacking with weapons doesn't upgrade it, because with some of the other cards, like the Warlock cards, it's not if your cards have damaged you, it's just if you've taken damage this turn, like the Duskbat. Obviously, it doesn't work together, but...
That would be cool, though.
Yeah.
It would be really good.
You could then play Skull of the Minari into Captain Greenskin Warlock to damage yourself. That's genius.
Next level.
But now for Fino, the ooze
50,
which
50.
he saved is working out pretty well for him, but he misses, as you said,
50-50,
the 50-50 to clear this off. He has an answer for it next turn in the form of Dynamatic or another hit of the weapon or a Brawl. Plenty of answers. It does, however, mean he's going to be tanking an extra
11
damage this turn, or what, minus the 2, so an extra 9 damage to face on this turn, which is absolutely huge.
Yeah, especially seeing as, even though Fino has been really good at just basically killing off all the stuff of Hoej, he's still getting down to like a low-ish for Outwarrior health total. Yeah, it's 25 health, but that's low when you have only 7 armor and 18 health.
And Hoej did position this correctly. Even though the weapon obviously always summons it on the right side, the fact that he put the
2-3
Sunfree on the left side, I don't know if he was thinking about it, but it was the correct way to do it, and it means it was not a 100%, but only a 50-50 to clear off the board instead. Oh, no, wait.
No,
it was even worse, because he would have got guaranteed. Oh, so he did it the wrong way around. All right, in that case, I retract my praise, Hoej.
Yeah. And here as well, though, if he heals up the 7-1 with the Shroom Brewer, the weapon will kill his own minion.
Yeah.
So he heals his own face instead, because now the effect from Super Collider doesn't happen if the minion dies, because you can't punch your friend if you're dead.
And all Fino needed there was one of those bombs to go on the 1 health hooked Reaver, which thankfully for his sake, that particular...
It was a high probability.
It was very, very likely, yeah.
And he uses the Binding Heal as well. You get some Binding Heal value, though. 5 health is... it helps. But yeah, Hoej is... What is considered Hellfire and Dread Infernal. Yeah, just to clear off the minion, have another 6/6 on board, and buffing up his Spellstone. He's going really greedy with this Gul'dan.
Yeah, really hesitant to play the Gul'dan. I think we can... You know, Hoej is obviously going to be expecting a Brawl in answer to the Blood Reaver Gul'dan, so just wants to get that last little bit of minion pressure on the board before he goes for it.
And this is also the biggest minion in the pool for Gul'dan, because the Hook Reaver only get to 4/4, and if that survives a Brawl, that's pretty good.
But it's not the biggest threat he could put down on this turn. Gul'dan was the most amount of stats that could have come down on this turn.
That's true. And this gives Fino a turn where we get the blast as well. We get rewarded for taking the hero power.
He might even go for Stonehill, though. If he hadn't got Blast Shield, it would have probably been a snap Stonehill. But yeah, the 7 armor is just too valuable. Yeah.
There's the Black Knight, though.
Oh, that could be good. Yeah.
Fino doesn't have that many taunts besides the Dire or Hatchlings, though. But this is looking like Hoej soon needs to play this Blood River Gul'dan, because the minions it has in hand, he has Gen, which is decent, I guess.
No, it just gets super collided. It's just really bad on this board. He'd have to go again with a Vulgar Homunculus in the middle. Or just Mossy Horror. I was thinking about this, but he just wants that res on the Dread Infernal so desperately. But then, if you extend that logic further, if he's so desperate to get the resurrection... No, actually, no, I was going to say, the thinking is, if he wants to get the Dread Infernal resurrected so badly, but he's afraid of Brawl, why doesn't he just play Gul'dan, because he knows it's going to get cleared anyway? But then the thinking is, if you go for it all in one go, you don't get the resurrection, and your board is then cleared by the Brawl as it comes down. So I suppose just this consistent, decent amount of pressure is maybe just the best way for Hoej to get there.
Because he knows there's 2 Brawls, and Fino's deck, even though he doesn't draw that much, is getting thinner, and it's a high probability that the Brawl is present. So he wants to have build a board without using Gul'dan, where he forces Fino to Brawl. But Fino is really, really being stingy with his Brawl. You can see now he clears up most of it, and it's only the Dread Infernal left. Yes, it does, Gul'dan. Yes, it does.
Another minion here. Just another decent threat in the Twilight Drake. It's pretty insane how well Hoej has managed to meter out his threats here and get him into a position where the removal, even though it's all been there for Fino, he's had both Reckless Flurries, both Super Colliders, the removal, it just still hasn't been enough so far.
So what's his plan here now? Defile?
Twilight Drake?
Or Black Knight?
Maybe Gen, actually, just for the most amount of damage. You want to save the Black Knight for the minion that's come off, because that could be a Sleepy Dragon or something. Yeah. Fino probably won't have taken the most expensive option. Again, we couldn't see the Discover options either. But
yeah, he wants something 8 mana or less. Yeah. But he's thinking of, pushing the 6 damage is more important.
Lord Godfrey is found, though.
Wow.
Which could clear the board with a hero power here. Godfrey Kaboom is a very unexpected board clear for Hoej, and it looks like Fino's going to be going for it. That's so sick.
No emotion from Hoej.
Nothing.
Nothing. It's just like,
nothing.
Seen this before.
Even though there's now lethal potentially, obviously we can see Gul'dan is going to come down. But a lot of damage coming through from Fino.
Fino is smiling.
A cheeky grin as well. Yeah, he knows he got quite lucky there. And he can go for another one with the Zola to clear the board. That is disgusting.
Yeah, just trade in.
You trade in for... Oh no, the Zola's there, yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to trade in. But yeah. And Hoej is just sitting there, it's like, yeah, this is Hearthstone.
And this is what Hoej has been leading up to the whole time. One big board that he hoped would push him over the finish line, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen.
You do, however, can just start pushing face with this hero power and using the Spellstone on the...
Drake Spellstone hero power.
And just continuing and hoping he doesn't get Blast Shield, basically. Because Blast Shield just... It's 2 and a little bit of turns of hero powering face. And he's now in fatigue, and Fino got all the time in the world.
Because Hoej was basically banking on the fact that Brawl would come down, obviously, to deal with his board, but one big minion would survive. Maybe it would be a Dread Infernal. He could connect face for 6 and end the game with hero powers.
He doesn't even gonna respect the Godfrey.
Yeah, he's he needs to get the damage through to face, which is why I was looking at Spellstone Drake. But he also knows there's a Mystery Taunt off of this Stonehill, which he wants to save the Spellstone for that, obviously. It was a tough turn. I mean, I definitely would have gone for the same play we were both looking at.
Yeah, just to protect your Drake, because you see the Kaboom there, which will just make the Godfrey able to.
Yeah, I wonder if that was better, because like Fino knows that the Black Knight was in hand for Hoej. Yeah. Oh, it was, sorry, before he played Stonehill, and that would, if I was Hoej, I would then choose to believe that Fino would take the cheapest one rather than the best statted one, just to play around a big Black Knight swing turn. But either way, one final hurrah onto the board here for Hoej.
With the Gen Greyman, the staple card in this deck. The only deck you actually need to include. Everything else is up to whatever.
And yet somehow still the worst card in the deck.
Yeah, true. If you could cut it, it would be the first to go. Yeah. But yeah, I love this. Like, Blizzard has been pushing even Warlock, or even the odd decks for the whole, ever since they started. Like, every card is even or odd, so they've been pushing it since the first expansion. But now they got the support with it with Gen and Baku, and it's been great. Yeah, it's very funny. So now we see this Fino's Old Warrior is going through. Yeah,
crossed off the wrong one. Oh, no, wait. No, I did cross off the right one. Yeah, sorry. Yes. The Odd Warrior taking a win. For Fino means that Hoej now has to respond with either his own Odd Warrior or, I think, what is slightly more likely, in the Token Druid. Yeah, the more recent version of the build with Strong Shell Scavengers, Saronite Chain Gangs, and the Giggling Inventors, I find has enough mid-game pressure through just going something like Chain Gang into Strong Shell Scavenger, but also has the seemingly unbeatable combos in the later game with the Whispering Woods into Soul of the Forest, which Warrior struggles so heavily to deal with, given they can't run Warpath.
Yeah, and especially since Odd Warriors, like, I saw a lot of Odd Warrior lists when Token Druid was like on its peak, when the Scavenger list was new and everyone was playing it, and they included 2 Whirlwinds just for beating Token Druid. Yeah. But this doesn't work in this because you need to be much more greedy because
Yes.
you're going to meet more greedy matchups, and that's why you have the Odd Warrior in this LHS format. You have it to beat like even lock. You have it, and then you can't have these useless cards like Whirlwind that just only targets one matchup.
Yeah, and it's not like the matchup is unwinnable for the Odd Warrior, even when they don't have those tech cards, because Token Druid is a deck that relies 100% on sticking a big board. That's its pretty much only win condition, outside of just Druid stuff against the aggro decks. But against Odd Warrior, they have to stick a big board. And Odd Warrior has a lot of board sweeps. If they can go for something like Reckless Flurry into Brawl a couple times.
Or just Dynamatics.
Exactly.
Double Dynamatics just clears 10 stats of the board, and usually that's a lot of Wisps and the Treants that follows. And if you also have like Boom, you can have the Kaboom hero power.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of options now, but it all depends. Like I always say that Token Druid is favored going in if you don't have Whirlwinds, but it's still not you can't just say you win it 100% of the time.
Yes, I'll definitely agree with you. And outside of that, with obviously Token Druid for the next one here, I would hope that Hoej will end up winning with his Token Druid if he does line it up, because with this being last hero standing, we did just get confirmation though from production that we have been unsurprisingly wrong this entire time, and Hoej doesn't like his chances with the Token Druid. He's going with the Odd Warrior instead. We got ourselves a nice little Odd Warrior mirror on our hands.
Well, as you also told earlier when we watched all the lists going down in the mirror matchups, Hoej's list is more suited to beat the mirror.
That's a good point, and maybe that is what's making him more likely to take it.
Or did you tell something to Hoej earlier today that he didn't like?
Well, I said
it's
his
one or the
brother-
other.
Yeah, I said his brother's better, and he's now
Yeah.
spiting me by bringing the Odd Warrior. But it is a good point you bring up about the mirror, because these are not identical decks. They are, well, they're the same archetype, but the tech cards are different. And some of those do work pretty strongly in Hoej's favor, I think, with double shield block in Feno's deck, but no shield blocks in Hoej's deck means he's got 2 more card slots just freed up that he can play, which has taken the form of another Faceless Manipulator. I believe it's 2 for Hoej versus 1 for Feno, which is a really nice card in that matchup. You can copy another Direhorn Hatchling. And he's also got himself a Tinkmaster Overspark, maybe to deal with a big Beryllium Nullifier minion or Nullifier's War Gears. It was a much more tempo mech version of Odd Warrior. And it lost by miles. It wasn't even close, to be honest. I don't know if they maybe played it badly, but the one with more cards to shuffle into their deck in the form of Elise and Direhorns just won by miles in Fatigue.
But yeah, before we start this game and we're just seeing the Baku going off, we can advise everyone to get something to drink, maybe get something to eat, because we're setting up tent here, and this is going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah, I've got my nice glass of water here. I'm splashing out and enjoying life. Feet up on the table. We're getting comfy here at HCT Oslo, because it's going to be a long one.
This isn't the first rodeo we have been on.
But there we go. We're starting to see a couple of the old important cards being found already. The
Feno has the Boom already.
Yes, Dr. Boom. That's the big one. That is the really big card here, because although towards the start of the Boomsday Odd Warrior mirrors, I was hearing some people saying, you should not play Dr. Boom instantly because you can get so much armor with the armor gain. I think as the matchup has developed, people have started to realize it's more about tempo. Dr. Boom is just slammed as quick as it possibly can every time.
And you hope for delivery drone every turn.
Pretty much.
Every other turn, basically. Because the delivery drone is basically what makes the Dr. Boom so good. It gives you free resources, similar to Rexar Hero Power. It just gives you something for free that the opponent has to answer, or else it's losing out.
And again, something you may have realized in previous Odd Warrior mirrors being played is that it's not the case where it is hero power pressed every single turn as much as you possibly can. It's much more about curving out minions. You press the hero power when you can, when you have the mana spare, but it is not your #1 priority every single turn. Because if you can stick a board that your opponent doesn't want to commit a piece of removal to, you can get yourself in the situation where the damage you push to face is worth way more in the disparity between your health totals than a press of the armor button would be.
We're seeing Feno here having the more tempo-y start with Elise in hand, and while Hoej on his turn 5 just hero powered up. He's getting a more solid board lead, even though that doesn't matter that much because of he knows Hoej has some form of removal. He has a full hand, tons of stuff. this was most likely not get through, and Hoej thinking of playing the ornery Direhorn, the bigger, beefier brother of Direhorn Hatchling, but it doesn't shuffle anything in.
Yeah, the bigger, beefier, and as is often the case with siblings, the worse of the two Direhorns.
Are you an older sibling?
I am an eldest. I'm an eldest sibling. Yeah, I've got 3 younger brothers and sisters, and I am by far the worst of all of them, as I'm sure Twitch chat is well aware. Actually, I don't think they know my brothers and sisters. They just know I suck. So.
Well, you don't. You're not that bad.
Thanks, mate. I'll take that. That's a very nice thing to say.
You're not horrible. That's. Well, you can't be horrible. Hobbits are adorable.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where is this Hobbit thing coming from that you're calling me a Hobbit?
Well, first of all, your hair is kind of like the Hobbit hair. You're just missing the
curls. A little
curls.
bit curly, yeah.
But the fact that seals this is like, you remember from the first Lord of the Rings, it's basically like, yeah, where's second dinner? We're not having second dinner. Yeah,
right. It's second breakfast.
Yeah, second breakfast.
Yeah.
Second meal.
Second, yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Oh, and now that you mention it, I did take a trip to Mordor and throw in the One Ring last year.
Well, that's nice. That's why the weather is so weird.
But as we've been prattling on, as we shall be doing a fair bit in this mirror, Fino's done a decent job of getting himself board control. He's been utilizing Shield Slam there, obviously very aggressively, just to get that extra damage through to face, because now he's got a board state which is pretty good. Like, it's obviously, it's not that impressive, but this is about the sweet spot that I find you want to be in as Odd Warrior in the mirror. You want just enough stuff on board to be pushing a good amount of damage.
Yeah,
but nothing to bait out a Brawl or a Reckless Flurry.
And that's the thing, there's keeping your opponent's armor total in check. With that 5 damage coming in from Elise, just punching. And seeing now Fino just snap plays the Dr. Boom. He's on the game plan now. He gets delivery drone off the next one, which is just perfect. And he can just start exhausting Hoej's few resources, and then hopefully Hoej throws the Dr. Boom soon, or else this game can pretty much be over.
Pretty much. He does have, Hoej does now have himself Elise, and not only Elise, Elise into Zola, which Fino omitted from playing. I'm just going to get the decks up now for both of these players, just so I can make sure of all the tech choices they got thrown in there, and any other things that might influence their play. I would definitely imagine that Fino has the Zola in his deck as well, but it doesn't have to go on the Elise. Like we said, getting
Hatchling is good,
yeah, exactly. Damage through to face is still very important. And so Elise on a Direhorn, it's not quite as good, but it still gets the job done in terms of fatigue.
And we see Fino with the discovery here coming up for a short time. He has a mechanical weapon, security rover, and a frame bot. And what you want with this discovery is just basically taking the minion that will be the most threatening for the board. And seeing this as rush, you can easily trade into this Zola and have a 7/7 on board. And even trade it there and have a 7/2 on board, just standing, staring at Hoej, and then Hoej needs to answer this somehow.
And even though the best case for Fino is that he gets a bunch of damage through to face with these minions, a very close second best outcome is he baits out removal. If he can get his opponent to respond not through minions, but with removal pieces like Brawl, Reckless Flurry, Shield Slam, Super Collider, that's really nice for Fino, because he's basically just eating up removal from his opponent with his hero power, which he, doesn't lose anything by pressing it. It's just value that he's creating.
And when all the removal is gone, he can just stick one of the bigger mechs, like Mecha Cthulhu or something like that, and just have his field day with 10 damage to face each turn.
As once again, just as touching base in terms of where this matchup is overall, we need to remember that Fino does need to be playing the aggressor. I think he's playing it right, because Hoej still seems to have the higher value deck overall. He's got one more Faceless in there. He doesn't have the shield block, so he can afford to run, I believe it's Tinkmaster Overspark he's got in his deck. And just more of those tech cards, which could be able to deal with a couple more of Fino's threats.
Yeah, and this is important also, as you're saying, that Fino got the Dr. Boom earlier as well, because that can put on pressure.
Oh, that's huge, yeah.
And you're seeing it also now, he got the 2 best hero powers for this matchup in a row. First, the microbots.
Yeah.
Like, they're won once, but they're
fine.
They're annoying, this is one of the better ones, because it's recurring damage, basically.
Yeah, I think I usually find that armor up is better. But, you know, this is now, it's gone from what, a 3-2 to a 4-3, which is a little bit more damage you're pushing every turn. What is Hoej going to do here? Does he silence it away? Then you just go delivery drone into Beryllium Nullifier, and you're laughing all the way to the bank for Fino.
We're seeing here now, Hoej he has like this full hand of cards, and he has like Omega Assembly, a Shield Slam, Super Glider. He has a Taunt in the way if he wants to put down that, but like none of them really answers the minion on board, and none of them really answers the upcoming delivery drone minion that comes. And it's getting annoying for Hoej that he basically can't really answer everything, and he really needs to draw his own boom in very few turns, so this can look very grim. Yeah,
he really does, especially with all the value that Fino is very rapidly accruing. Yeah, I agree that the silence wasn't worth it there just to get rid of the lifesteal and the +1/+1.
For Fino's side though, the silence on the Diron Hatchling gives him one more turn in the...
Faceless as well. Yeah, this all looks brilliant. Equalizing the playing field in terms of the amount of shuffle. Because while we've been saying that Fino is ahead, that Hoej is ahead overall in terms of this matchup on paper, I wouldn't say it's by that much. Like, the only cards he has in his deck that are really good is an extra copy of Faceless Manipulator, I think an extra Owl. So maybe on average he comes up with 1, maybe 2 extra cards ahead in Fatigue, which is a fairly big deal. But through a decent couple of Faceless, Dr. Boom rolls, maybe a Ziliax, maybe an Azalina, Fino can start to pull this back.
Yeah, you see Hoej here just returning the favor with the Iron Brick Owl because he wants Fino to basically fatigue faster, because that's his game plan now. And Hoej, of course, if Fino doesn't get basically only gets Kaboom and the bad hero powers of Hoej can also just armor up every turn because he still has the armor up hero power, and just when the fatigue hits, and if it hits quite similar, he has the extremely high health lead. You can just cruise through, but currently Fino has the health lead due to having more free threats that he can just put on board and doesn't phase him because it doesn't reduce his hand size at all.
Yeah. We're just wondering about how he wants to divvy out this removal and what he wants to send face. Hoej definitely has to be more inclined towards trading than Fino, I would say, because he's on the defensive. He doesn't want to get his armor total chipped down too heavily, and he doesn't have Dr. Boom yet. Still.
The Dynamatic is going to clean up some board here.
Yep, just pretty simply, once again, board development from Fino. That's all he's really caring about here.
And the Ooze, of course, is just get rid of the rest of the
more tempo, and he gets delivery drone again. That's gone drone something, drone something, drone.
It's perfect.
It could not have been better. Well, it could have been better because it could have been swapping between better ones. But it's nuts. This is so good for him.
And Hoej drawing the boom though.
That's really important.
But still, Fino has gotten 3 turns of the boom hero power, or the delivery drone before he actually managed to do it, and then. Ooh, Mecha Cthulhu.
That is really not a bad Omega Assembly at all. The Beryllium Nullifier, I would say, is probably even better than the Mecha Cthulhu, just as a way to make one big tall minion that Fino won't be able to answer, maybe, because his 1 copy of Iron Beak Owl is gone.
But he chose not to play Dr. Boom because he rather want to clear the board.
Oh yeah, sorry, he's at 9 cards. I was almost afraid for a second that Fino was at the full 10 cards. But
oh, you can't press the hero power if you're full hand.
Oh, you can't press it at all? Okay. They added in a safety check for players like me.
Basically. Yeah. They haven't done it on the tap yet on the board.
Oh, yeah. But still, Fino just pretty simple, throwing down the threats turn after turn here and praying that Hoej finally doesn't have a piece of removal. But it's just pretty easy here for Hoej. He's just got all the answers he could need.
Yeah. I really like the Omega effect, though. The Omega effect is really inventive by Blizzard.
Cool.
It's basically, it's a normally static card, or maybe understatic card normally, and then it just gets this Omega effect if you manage to wait to 10 mana. It gives the versatility of basically Druid choose 1 cards, but in all classes that can use it.
And I know that this is something that players have probably talked about a lot, but I still feel like they're being underutilized. Maybe not the Omega Defender, but I don't know, Omega Medic is seeing a little bit of play. That's a really good card. I thought Omega Mind would be seeing a lot more play, the Shaman card that gives you lifesteal for your spells.
I don't know. I feel like there could be a
I like the
spot for
Warlock
them.
card as well. When you get that of from a random discover or something like that, it's just like, oh, I'm on 10 mana.
Yeah.
It's 3 Yetis for 5 mana. That's good.
Yeah.
It's horrible early game though. So
it is very bad.
It doesn't have a deck it fits in yet.
Yeah.
Because Su doesn't want it because they don't want to go to 10 mana.
Yeah.
And even Warlock can't play it because it's 5 mana. And Cube Warlock has other things doing it.
You want to play Skull.
Yeah. So, but the card has potential. It just needs a new archetype to come through. Same with the Rush Warrior and stuff like that. I think a lot of with the new expansion set coming around Christmas, I think we will see a new archetypes with cards from Boomsday being more viable and coming into play.
Very possibly. That is one of the things I liked about Boomsday, is a lot of the cards seem powerful but don't have obvious decks they fit in. A slow burner of an expansion, I would say.
Yeah, it's very few cards that actually made it into... the mechs in general and the magnetic is also a kind of cool new way of Blizzard doing new mechanics. And I love every time that you do new mechanics. It freshens up the game a bit, and a lot of it has potential down the line. Yeah. And as they always say, they're working 2-3 expansions ahead. It's just not... We're not just planning ahead for today or tomorrow.
So now, as Fino has been developing pretty efficiently onto the board here, getting threats and getting another delivery drone, Hoej is just having to play catch-up here, just trying to get his own kind of board control, which he's doing reasonably well. The Beryllium Nullifier he's got on the board is pretty good, but Fino got an Elise off of the weaponized Pinata. What? That's like... Where does that rank in the scale of legendaries? Like, Benedictus is number 1. Rin has to be number 2, probably, in terms of a fatigue matchup. But Elise has to be, like, top 10. That is such an absurdly good card to get here for Fino.
Fino's just...
Go on, give us a cheeky grin. We know he knows he got a little bit lucky.
And Hoej he moved his hand. Hoej is clearly disturbed about this play.
Yeah, there we go.
Don't make me push buttons,
Finally.
Emoting back. And Fino's smiling,
Yep.
And seeing Fino as well, getting... Ciliax is always a good pickup here, usually.
I like Ciliax. Unless he wants to throw it down right now, because he needs the hand space.
Yeah.
I think this is the way to go. Yeah, just play something else. Oh my god.
This just changes the whole matchup in terms of fatigue.
It does. This has just given Fino another card to shuffle in his deck. And that means because the only actual card that helped in terms of fatigue for Hoej was the extra Faceless Manipulator. I think unless anything drastic happens with Azalina on either side, or with the packs for either player, that's just even the playing field. Fatigue is pretty much equal, I think, now.
Yeah, Hoej also has the extra silence for a second Diron Hatchling, but
that's true.
It's closer now, much closer than it should have been.
So maybe Hoej still ends up 1 card better in fatigue, very possibly.
Now we see the Can we see the Mecha Cthulhu?
Yeah, it's obviously a shame it doesn't have magnetic itself to stick into the Beryllium Nullifier.
Just make the biggest bad boy you've ever seen.
But it's still a 10-10 rush, which protects the Beryllium Nullifier for the moment, because that isn't doing nothing.
Oh, Hoej
isn't doing
delivered
anything.
drone as well.
Man, Fino, despite the fact that we thought he was a little bit behind coming into the series, really has been...
He's
been getting pretty fortunate, I think. But I also think he's been doing what you're supposed to do in this matchup. He's been playing aggressively, throwing down all the threats on board every single turn. Like, he's even just considering a Dynamatic on this
just
turn.
to get the 3-4 on board. And even though he also knows that the Dynamatic has a low chance of actually hitting anything, because it's mechs.
Yeah, I do prefer Ziliax or Stonehill on this turn. He wants to be worrying about clearing up hand space, I guess.
Yeah, for Mega Assembly.
Which is why he doesn't want to go Stonehill.
We can do it without burning a card.
He can, it's a valid option. But I think he wants to be getting rid of cards even quicker.
Yeah, so the Omega Assembly can be huge here. And getting it out of hand before like an Azalina and stuff like that. So you know what the opponent has. Because if they steal the Omega Assembly, they have unknown mechs. And that's never fun.
Oh, and he gets a Direhorn off of the Stonehill defender as
now
well.
Now the field is completely equal, and Fino has the clear lead in like resources and.
And Hoej still is giving us no facial recognition, but I get the feeling that if we could take a step into his mind, it would be a hellscape, the likes of which that no mortal man could survive.
Oh, the scorpomatic value.
Things are turning around for Hoej here.
He doesn't get a buff, though. That's a bit shame.
Yeah.
It's not a crab, so I understand it. But yeah. He should have made a mecha crab. Mechanical,
mechano crab.
Yeah, mechano crab that had some effect like that against stats.
What, that kills off a mech? They did. It's EMP.
Yeah, but I think like a crab.
Oh, like an actual crab.
Yeah, mechanical crab, like the card art, basically. We haven't had a crab in a while. And we got a perfect minion for it like a couple expansions back then, the Nightmare Amalgam. So.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they'll bring you onto the design team and you can be like, all right, guys, new expansion, Crabs of Crabtopia.
Yeah. Only crabs.
Yeah. Every card in the expansion eats up one of the other cards in the expansion and gains +5/+5.
That would be awesome. Here we see the worst card in the deck for Fino coming into hand as well, the Baku.
Yeah,
it's basically throwing patches.
I mean, it is the worst card overall. In this matchup, though, it's far from the worst card. It's better than Shield Block, which you just can't play.
True. Hoej sees the Dire hatchling off the Stone of the Feather and still unfazed. I would be pretty tilted right now.
I would be pretty tilted as well at this point, I have to be honest.
He has the silence for it, though, so that helps, but 12 cards left for Hoej. Still a long way away from actual having... if he wants to use the Super Collider, he should use that first.
I don't think he does want to use the Super Collider. I think he just probably correctly finds it too valuable here. In that he can just go with the rush of the... Yeah, and with the zap as well. I like this quite a lot more, actually. It's just not necessary because you can use the rush and the hero power. Yeah, I like this.
He's emptying out his hand for the Unguro packs as well. He got like two of them, so using more minions, using more stuff.
And both players have used all their owls on dire horns, which is what you kind of want to be using. Fino's 1 owl and
Fino's
got
a lot of delivery drone though. Oh, there's the Nightmare Amalgam as well. Comes up.
Eternium Rover, I guess, works well with any minion you can magnetize on it to get a little bit of extra armor, and it's just cheap to throw down if you want to go for Omega Assembly. It's not a particularly good card in this matchup, though, or in Odd Warrior at all at the moment.
Yeah, I remember when the Odd Warriors, the first Odd Warrior list always ran. Yeah, because you were just, I need to beat aggro, I need to turn in rovers. It's like, well, you beat aggro anyway.
Every time anyway, yeah.
Nothing they can do. Why should you include a card that just makes the good matchup better?
And still here for Fino, just developing, taking everything nice and slow, setting up for a very late game Omega Assembly, it would seem. I guess using the Omega Assembly there was a little bit overzealous.
That's a good assembly though. Celiax and Dynamatic.
Yeah, it's really not bad. No Beryllium Nullifiers left for Hoej now, but maybe he can start discovering a couple more of the hero power.
Still a long way to go though.
Yeah. Yup.
We're only just getting started. But getting the Celiax out now also means that he has like the 4/3 is a decently sized minion for, as we said earlier, you don't need the biggest minions to actually make this board threatening. You just need enough minions to just punish them a little bit. So they need to use, they just can't only use the good stuff. And even though most of these boards get cleared up with Kaboom.
Yeah, Fino finally getting the hero power that he does not want, but even here it's not that bad.
He clears up 2 minions.
Yeah, he clearly thinking about not even going for it and just throwing down Baku instead. He does want to be playing cards from his hand, and nothing else feels all too good when played from his hand.
Yeah, the Shield Slab is too valuable for later. He plays the Omega Assembly for only 2.
Wow, okay, interesting. That's some, well, and if he's only playing it for 2 cards here, I reckon we should probably have seen it last turn then when played for 2. I guess he didn't know what his card off the top would be, so maybe he thought he'd be able to get the full 3-card value.
Yeah.
But we can clearly see he would have liked the liberty of knowing what the mechs were on this turn.
Not the delivery. Is it every other turn, I think?
It hasn't been every other turn, but it's been very,
close,
very
yeah.
frequently. Yeah, this has just been going an awful lot better for Fino than it has for Hoej. There are obviously no mechs that shuffle cards into your deck, but that's not really the point. It's just the fact that you are eating up removal from your opponent and consistently staying ahead. Because even though Hoej is at a relatively decent life total, considering how aggressive Fenomeno's turns have been turn after turn after turn, it's the removal that's starting to whittle away. This will become very apparent in the later stages of the game. Unless Hoej can make a big play onto the board, he's just going to run out of stuff.
Play the Tyrone Hatchling and the Demolisher, and just have a Demolisher. Why not? It's
I guess, yeah.
It's like a Ragnaros mini version that does
really
it.
bad Ragnaros.
Yeah. This was one of the most proposed changes to Ragnaros earlier. That this at the start of your turn instead of the end of your turn to balance it.
I thought you were going to say make it a 1/4 that does 2 damage.
But it makes it horrible because, like, yeah, it's a card that no one puts in the deck unless you're really new to the game. I like the flavor of it. It's a cool like effect in itself, and the animation is look at the barrel go straight to the face.
2 damage to face.
Fantastic.
As you can tell, this game's still looking like it's got a ways to go yet.
Yeah, good. We got a good few turns left.
Yeah, if you know any good jokes,
well,
tweet at me. You know.
Yeah, tweet at Derek.
At Brown Derek. Send me any good jokes, any fun facts. You know.
I know a really good joke.
All right,
Lorinda.
Hey. Savage.
Savage. Yeah. The general player, so you can see the dynamic, how good it actually is when you have rush. It's basically 8 damage removal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the flame lance of Old Warrior.
Yeah. Pushing the 1 damage. Another blast though. Like Hoej is getting the armor again a couple of times now.
Yeah.
Which is also good because Fino is getting low on armor now because he hasn't gotten it.
Yeah, it's pretty important because he is actually starting to wrestle back board control, and as his hand has been whittled away because Fino has had the higher value plays, the higher tempo plays, Hoej is going to need to start wrestling back board now. That fact has not changed in my opinion.
Demolisher goes again. How nice. Is Hoej thinking of opening a pack just like Fino did? Like an aggressive pack opener?
I guess it's unlikely to get a more than 5... You're unlikely to get the full 5 cards off both of the packs. And I think Hoej is actually realizing that here, knowing he doesn't have that much to do with all his mana because he's pretty much just run out of stuff because he hasn't been getting that delivery drone nearly as often as he would like.
Getting 4 is decent.
And so he throws out the pack and gets, to be honest, a pretty bad pack. This is miserable. Bright-Eyed Scout is unplayable, I would imagine, until right at the end. And the rest just don't really do anything. That's one of the worst packs I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it's small minions though, so you can just play them out because he needs to empty some hand space. Playing out an Archaeologist does nothing. Is it 2-3 though?
Yeah.
Crocolis.
Even with the evolving spores for poisonous. Oh my god, the tempo swing.
And now the Demolisher is actually quite good because the effect just has poisonous.
That's pretty sick, actually.
So if Fino plays a minion here now, it's just going to kill it.
Maybe Fino forgets that. I find it highly unlikely because I think we're going to see a hero power come
The thing
down.
now is whatever Fino plays now and he wants to rush in will die. Like the Mecha Cthulhu will die. So unless he can dump his whole hand in his whole deck, this is actually a quite good adapt, actually.
It's really not that bad. It makes life a little bit difficult for Fino, doesn't it?
But Fino has the microbots, though, to answer this.
Yeah, well, he can deal with one of them with the microbots, and then the other one, he goes... Oh, like, I know that Shield Slam is quite valuable in this matchup, but he has to start getting rid of cards. Unless he wants to just Azalina. Like, maybe if he hadn't picked up the Ungoro pack, he would have just slammed Azalina and try and get the value from his opponent's pack, which he thinks maybe is quite good.
Yeah.
But now that he's got the pack of his own, I think it makes that choice quite a lot more difficult.
I'm seeing a Shield Slam going out here, yeah. Because, yeah, dumping his hand now and playing Azalina later, using the Shield Slams for for this. Oh, he's ripping the pack as well. Yeah, he's planning to just dump everything in Azalina.
Same
Two
thing.
cards.
Yeah.
Oh, Glyph. And an Ironhide.
That could be good. If we see a Dead Man's Hand here. Oh.
Gather a party, recruit a minion.
That seems like a very bad one.
Yeah.
That's just
Why
a
did he
minion
pick
you've lost from your deck. I guess maybe he's planning... I guess with the rope burning, he chose the quickest one he could. All the others were probably useless.
Yeah.
We didn't get to see the option either. But he's probably planning on just getting rid of this with Azalina at some point. Oh man, if I had been a Dead Man's Hand though, that would be so sick.
That would be... Yeah.
That would be game over.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
we maybe see a reaction from Hoej. Very...
He finally, you know, blinks.
Yeah. Fino is more active if you look at him. He's more like nodding his head and waving a little bit back and forth.
If I know Fino, it's probably because he's listening to the new Logic album.
Oh, might be. When are you dropping your album?
It's just a mixtape. Yeah.
The Tarek Brown sound. Yeah. Yeah, his plan now is to soon as Alina. And playing out to like the Big Game Hunter here, for instance, will show that. He has also his full hand, so he needs to do something soon.
It's not a great Azalina though, because your opponent's played 3 of the 4 minions they got off the pack. He has no idea that the second one is in there. He doesn't know that he would be taking a Direhorn Hatchling, which we can clearly see would be a fantastic minion to be taking. And he wants to just get at least a little bit of value off of the Omega Assembly, before he swaps with Azalina. Because I think he's getting close. He's getting very close to the point where he feels comfortable to lose his hand.
Yeah, Reckless Flurry. He has both Reckless Flurries, both Shield Blocks, and
all of those
Brawl in hand. It's
bad
just
cards.
It's dead cards. Not the delivery drone though. Keeps the gift that keeps on giving.
And I think Hoej likely will be maybe not sensing that Azalina is there, but knowing it's a potential threat at some point, and therefore will be wanting to get rid of his good cards from hand, like the Direhorn Hatchling, as quick as he can.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
Well, this is going on for long. Fino needing a stretch. I'm getting tired. This is 7th round. It's 3rd round today of Swiss as well. So and he's been up like late night to grind the ladder as well. So it's
been a lot of Hearthstone for these players. I think everyone's starting to feel it now towards the end of the month.
Bearing up his board.
Wow, he's still holding back on the Direhorn. I guess because he feels like he has to get value with the Faceless Manipulator on it, or he won't be winning in Fatigue. If he's not quick with it, though, if he doesn't find the Faceless soon, this is going to be another card that he's basically given to Fino's deck. But I can still totally understand the reasoning for it. It does make sense.
Makes sense, yeah. Coppertail comes down, that's stealth. When he picks up, he picks up the Gatekeeper there, just because there was the only one he could play for a little bit. Getting out the 2/6 minion, pushing that extra 1 damage.
More damage to face.
We're getting there, only 50 HP to go.
Kind of showing here for Fino why most mech decks I've seen don't really end up working out, because you get the magnetize effect, and in any kind of a magnetic, an aggro deck, you realize, okay, I paid 3 mana, and I've given my minion +1 attack. That just doesn't really work out when you're trying to kill your opponent.
Yeah, I want the mech deck to have worked though. Mechs was really fun during GVG, and they had a lot of good decks, but they were degenerate as well.
They were very degenerate. Mech Warper, yeah, that made that.
But as long as they
disgusting.
don't print Mech Warper again, it's safe. Mechs in general are cool. I'm an anime weeb, so I love, of course, mecha and all the mech stuff.
Oh, I have no idea. You've just spawned a wave of AAI in chat now.
Yeah. Well, everyone was like asking me how, the last match we casted with Lorinda. It's the name of Hokage, and everyone was like, "How do you pronounce that name?" His own manager doesn't really know how to pronounce it, and I was telling him, "Well, it's Hokage. It's from Naruto. I know this."
Right.
Revealing my inner weeb.
Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. No.
As Fino is just starting to draw more and more of the good cards from his deck, which kind of stops him from being able to go Azalina.
Yeah.
He has to play Direhorn, Matriarch, and Hatchling, the mother-daughter bonding time first.
Yeah, and this is a 6/9. It's a big boy. Well, here comes the Here comes the good
There
stuff. There
we go.
And he has a bad hero power as well, so it's the perfect time to just
couldn't be better.
do the talk. And Fino is like, oh, should have Azelina.
Yeah, but
perfect Azelina.
he gets a dire horn, he loses a dire horn. It's like, doesn't really work out. He can still get some good cards after Hoej goes for a pack.
And yeah, drawing the second brawl. Now 2 brawls, 2 reckless flurry, 2 shield blocks, just clogging his hand, doing nothing.
He wants to be going for dire horn on this turn because I don't think that Fino is especially committed to playing the Mechathune, but it doesn't clear the board. This does clear the board and keeps him well ahead. Because if he goes for the dire horn route, he's probably setting up, I would imagine, for an Azelina next turn. But if he goes for the Mechathune, it's a more tempo-oriented route, which I think I probably like a bit more.
Yeah. And it has to be answered by more removal from Hoej. He has only one shield slam left, and he knows that because he's used one already.
It's very close, though. Like, this does set up, I think, for a quicker Azelina is the thinking here. And it also stops his opponent from getting another dire horn. If Hoej was to Azelina as well, I think is probably also a consideration for Fino.
Another delivery drone. These delivery drones, bringing all the mechs to the yard.
Yeah, Fino, shaking his head there. I think he was unsure on that turn. And it was a close one. There were obvious benefits to either play. As I said, I think that the way that he's been playing it so far has been very much for board control and tempo, and therefore I probably would have preferred Mechathune, but then would it actually have just been cleared off by... Oh, no, it would have been cleared off by a hit with the weapon and zap. Oh yeah, maybe that's another reason why. Oh, it's so close.
There's so many considerations to take in as well. They're even in fatigue now, and both will shuffle in one more dire horn. There is... well, Fino will draw the card first, then. But besides that, they're even in fatigue.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was I have to be honest, rubbing my sore eyes there. How many cards were they both on?
4.
4 each. Okay.
Yeah, and Fino is drawing into the 3rd.
Got it. Good.
So Hoej is 1 ahead.
Yes, just about. And I think this is every shuffle card accounted for now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Due to Fino getting that release, it's making him ahead. Oh, Hoej is getting delivery drone as well now. It's good. Yeah, Fino wants to get his Mechathune out as well, I think.
Oh, he's got delivery drone there. That's a good one to be having.
Yeah.
But then, what does he do to clear up hand space? Does he he has to clear off something first? So then, would he go reckless flurry, then play delivery drone? Yeah, he's as good. He's setting up for quick plays to dump his hand.
Hoej's like, you had delivery drone. Why didn't you press it?
That's a good point. That does set off a lot of alarm bells. Because Hoej's first port of call, it looks like he's going to be straight to slam that delivery drone.
Oh, that beryllium nullifier. Oh, the mechanical
whelp is worth considering, yeah.
The beryllium nullifier goes great with the shield slam, though, fully using your mana. The mechanical whelp is more stats.
Yeah, I think beryllium nullifier is more of a card to pull ahead further on board when you're already winning, whereas the whelp is a stronger comeback mechanism.
Yeah. It's also cheaper, easier to fit in.
Yeah. Just does way more damage. What's like 9 versus 3? It's not even close. If you're using it as a removal.
That's not the best cards. Omega Defender.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It fits the curve as well, though. If he's going to shield slam this Mechathune, I would assume he would.
It's 12 times better than the Mogashan Warden, which was offered there as well.
That's true. Well, it's 1 less health, though.
No, attack's the only stat I care about. That's the good one. As Hoej clearly is starting to see, he's smelling a rat. He's realizing that there is a lot of threats coming down from Fino.
Solar.
Wow. So he wants to get the cards out of his hand as quick as possible before Azelina comes down. Oh, and now for Fino, does he have any shuffle cards left in his deck? Because if he does have another dire horn, he wants to draw it and play it on the dire horn most definitely.
But I don't think he has a dire horn. He has matriarchs.
I don't think he has another dire horn either. Maybe he's committing to this tempo route even more heavily by saying, I don't even want to add another shuffle card to my hand. I want to add a big minion to my hand, just like a beryllium nullifier or a dire horn matriarch.
Now we use this reckless flurry just because, well, he needed to clear up the 12-6.
Yeah, it always comes eventually in this matchup.
Yeah, the 12-6 would do more damage. Oh.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Microbots is decent. It's 3 minions.
Yeah, still just wants to get the value every single turn. Doesn't even want to go for
Like a mind control deck or mechanical whelp.
mechanical whelp. Yeah, I think Fino still has 1 copy of mind control tech left in his deck because he played 1 onto the board, and I think there's still another one knocking about, which is one major reason not to go for it. Even so, Hoej does need to be starting to be a little bit considerate of Azalina value for his opponent. Still, it has to be coming at some point.
Yeah, and Fino can also solo a Direhorn Matriarch because that's a big boy.
Yeah, yeah.
6/9 taunt. It's and with both shield slam gone, it's a menacing threat.
But Fino, with only, what is it now, 3 cards left in his deck, 2 even, he needs to be playing, if he's going to play Azalina, he needs to play it soon, because he's going to start drawing into his packs. There's 2 in his deck, I believe, and he hasn't drawn either.
He played 1 pack.
Oh, he
for
played
like,
1.
for very few cards, like 2 or 3 cards.
Well, even then, that's...
Yeah. He had been using like Omega Assemblies and packs and everything like for only a few cards. Like he gotten 2 mechs a couple of times with Omega Assembly just because he feels like he wanted to Azalina and just dump his hand. But he hasn't really come about it because he's pulling ahead with all of the other stuff. Using a Brawl here just to clear off a few minions.
Yeah, I guess just to get room out of his hand as well, because he knows, again, he wants to get playing the cards from that pack.
Here comes the Direhorn Matriarch from Hoej. And he just needs to play 1 card a turn now.
What cards did Fino get from the pack earlier? Oh yeah, there's the MCT. So clearly the last card, I think, is the other pack that he has in his deck.
Yeah. So how does he answer this Matriarch? Another Matriarch?
Yeah, he obviously doesn't have the armor up hero power, so Reckless Flurry doesn't get there unless he wants to, God forbid, draw a card off of shield block. It's a little bit difficult
Ruin the
to
last
do so.
10 turns or 30 turns or whatever we're at now. Okay, just answering with the Direhorn Matriarch and solo it so you can have another one next turn.
Yeah, nice big minion he's trying to make for himself. This is, you know, it's away from the standard theory of this matchup, but it is definitely committing to what Fino has been playing for, which is very strong tempo plays turn after turn.
Yeah. Here comes the mechanical whelping in though. He can like value trade into this 6/9, have a 7/1 on the board, and push 6 damage face, and actually hurting Fino for 1 physical damage down to 29. This serious business.
Actual non-armor damage is going to be done for the first time. Oh my goodness.
This is a big moment. This is a huge step for Hearthstone and a big step for mankind.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
So clearly Hoej unsure as to whether he wants to get value while he can off of his Faceless Manipulator. Actually, he knows there's another Direhorn in Matriarch in hand. So while his first instinct was clearly Mechanical Whelp to clear it off, push damage to face, I wonder if he's starting to change his mind a little bit here, maybe try and get some value off of the Reckless Flurry while he can, it would seem.
Yeah. Just playing up the armor. It's one way to do it.
That's it. I'm out of cards.
That's it. I'm out of cards. Now the game starts. We're at fatigue, and now they have to work with. They have to work with the hands they have been given.
Why me? What did I do to deserve this, Delta?
And Fino, just instant picks that mechanical whelp because he knows that's a strong card.
Yeah, I doubt there were many better options there. And we're seeing him playing out onto the board.
You put the super card to the face, and I was like, oh, this is exciting. Yeah, now he plays the mechanical whelp that trades perfectly into this 6/9. And then you can zap.
It's still really close. They're at basically the same armor total. Fino has a Super Collider, which is pretty massive. Hoej has Matriarch into Faceless Manipulator, though, which is a really big play onto the board. But maybe Fino's Super Collider is enough to counteract that perfectly.
Yeah, and Fino also has the mechanical whelping.
Yeah.
He hadn't been better luck with the delivery drone. But that can turn now because Hoej has had bad luck with it. So we will see. Marker bots on both of them, so it's even at least.
Gather your party literally just being used to free up a card slot from the hand, as it looks like Fino's going to be busting that pack open. Still only for 4 cards. And again, that is just a pretty underwhelming pack.
Hydrologist does very little. The Razor Pedal
does very little. Yeah. This is just not a game-winning pack. This is just stuff to throw onto the board, and not even particularly good stuff at that.
just small weenie minions.
Yeah, we've seen Swamp King Dread earlier. We've seen
Hidden
Tyrantus.
Wisdom is the play here, though, isn't it?
What was the play? Oh, Hidden Wisdom. Yeah, I think not.
No, but the Resurrect can be annoying for Hoej, basically giving another 2-2 or 2-1 then. Oh, he didn't pick Resurrect. Oh yeah, he picks it in the hand, Redemption in hand. So you can play it with, like, the mechanical Whelpling, for instance.
And now needs to find a way to deal with this Matriarch, lest it be copied instantly by Hoej, which is the mechanical Whelp. That's a perfect answer to it, should he want it. And then after that, what are the good cards left in his hand? Maybe we just see, over the next turn or two, Azalina, just straight up for Fino.
He's dumping the rest of his good cards, like the Whelpling, the Redemption, just doing the Razor Pedals and just punching them somewhere. And Hoej got the delivery drone as well now, so he can pick up a good mech. There's very low amount of removal left. There's 2 brawls in Hoej's hands and 1 brawl in. There's no single target removal besides the mechs you might have pick up for Rush. Yeah, so you kill out that, play the Redemption, so it's only that it hits.
Yeah, very nicely done.
And then you can do more damage.
I think after an hour-long Warrior Mirror, I might have missed sacrificing off the 1-1 there, I have to be honest. But indeed, a nice spot. And Hoej now is left thinking, what do I do against this? I mean, maybe I was underestimating how good the Hydrologist is here, because now if he wants to actually stop the damage from coming through, Hoej has to lose both of his, both the baby dragon and the big dragon.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, trade in both of them, he knows it's...
He has to tank 7.
What secret do they think it is? It's either Redemption or, get down.
Noble Sacrifice, yeah. Either way, it's the same thing, though. They're exactly identical in this instance.
It's so sad to just 7-7 into a 7-1.
Yeah, but if he doesn't do it, he just takes way too much damage.
Fino is pondering what his next play is going to be, and seeing this Thunder Lizard and this Razor Pedal and just feeding time and all this rubbish. Yeah, he's going to still play up the Thunder Lizard, I think, just for having some sort of... It's a minion.
Yeah, it's a minion.
It's a 3-3.
Man, he's still holding back on the Azalina, though. I definitely would have expected it to come down sooner.
Yeah, and Hoej doesn't have an Azalina, so...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, mind control value.
Maybe he wants Hoej to open his pack for him, and then he can just take the cards that come out of it instead of having to spend the 2 mana on it.
Oh, he got one of the 1-1s. They can rush in. And Fino got the delivery drone once more, and it's just aching out who will have the last straw in this long and grueling Odd Warrior Mirror.
And even though it was looking so good for Fino at the start, with threat after threat after threat, boom nice and early on, so many delivery drones, now Hoej is starting to pull this one back. Maybe the Super Collider on Fino's side is enough. Maybe Azalina is enough. The delivery drone, there's so many factors here that these players have to be taking into account, even right at the end. And with this pack now for Hoej, it's another pretty rubbish lot of packs here.
Well,
Stampede into... Nesting Rock
and Clutch Mother
Zavas is a beast as well.
You can have the biggest value turn ever if you can just save that Clutch Mother.
Oh. Was that too quick? The Super Collider just takes them both out now. Well, I think that might have been too quick from Hoej. Yeah, I think he's
tired.
Yeah, he's giving his hand out. Yeah, you know, holding up his hand there. First sign of recognition we've seen from anything from Hoej there.
Yeah, now we see one Razor Pedal. Azalina delivery drone. Maybe. Or maybe not.
Oh man, this is...
now comes the Azalina.
Yeah, this was a pretty... It does make his opponent's Azalina worse, which is maybe part of Hoej's thinking.
Well, Hoej doesn't have Azalina. Oh yeah, you mean you're not using the Stampede and the...
Yeah, if you play the Clutch Mother Zavas, it means Fino's Stampede will become worse. Because Stampede does just give you a random beast whenever you
Yeah.
play a beast, right? Yeah, I'm just
It's a random.
making sure. Yeah.
Get random King Crush.
A random another Direhorn hatchling. Who knows? A raptor hatchling.
A Raptor is also good, yeah.
Yeah.
Here's another delivery drone, I guess. Dynamatic here is very good on this board.
What does that do? Does that guarantee a clear?
You kill, most likely, high probability kill, or you kill at least the 1/1.
Yeah, you kill 2, pretty much
Yeah.
guaranteed, I think. In fact, you definitely kill 2 at least. And hopefully for
you
Hoej's sake, 3. But he doesn't get it anyway.
Security Rover is pretty good as
Yeah,
well.
that's really pretty good. It does allow more Super Collider value, which is still showing to be a really powerful asset for Fino in this matchup right at the end.
I'm seeing the Brawl coming out. Yeah, on a 3 million board. It's not much else it's been clean up anyways.
I suppose the most likely result of just a 3-3 surviving there.
Oh, I love that you thing.
It's a full hand, it doesn't matter. Because he doesn't draw anything.
Yeah, I mean...
But it's for delivery drone and stuff like that, easier to
Oh,
clear
yeah,
out.
secure. Yeah, okay, that is worth it then. I was wondering if that was just a pointless throwing it down for some reason. But now we're getting to see the Stampede from Fino. What could this be that comes off it?
Oh.
Ornery Direhorn.
It's a big, decent meme.
Yeah, he wanted something he could play on that turn, ideally. But that was just 1 mana. Give yourself a pretty well-statted minion.
You now can do the Security Rover, trade into the 3/2.
It's just not that good. Fino's still ahead on the board. As soon as Hoej makes more than 1 minion, Super Collider mops everything up.
And there's also, he knows the whole Fenomeno hand besides the latest beast and this Dynamatic. That's the only 2 cards that are hidden from him.
And I guess the advantage is for Hoej, Fino is down to 17 health. He's taking fatigue first. Maybe that means he just dies first. Hoej is hanging on by the skin of his teeth here because of the onslaught that Fino can put forward, because of the initiative he had on the board.
Okay, then.
But maybe this can turn it around.
1 little Security Rover. Counting out the fatigue damage. And like, this is also decided a lot if...
Oh yeah, you slam that face.
yeah. But also who gets Blast Shield, for instance.
That could make a big difference.
It's
Yep.
7 damage, just 1 turn of fatigue, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering here, do I sack this in to deny Super Collider value, or do I leave it here? I think I like leaving it, because even if Super Collider does come in...
That's 2 damage to face.
2
and
damage to face,
You
yeah.
still spawn 1 more, 2, 3.
The Kaboom hero power means the 6 that was just taken from Fino means 7 next turn. That is the 1 damage that is needed to deliver lethal against Fino. He has no armor gain. He can't deliver lethal.
Is this just over?
I think that might just be it. Does he have any way of gaining armor? There's nothing, right? He can't
No.
copy his opponent's hand.
This is just over.
I
It
think
has
it's
to be
just over.
Yeah. It all come down to
This would be a good
him
time
going
for
in
a
1
master
turn
plan.
earlier into
Yeah.
fatigue. After, I don't know how long we've been sitting here. We've been talking jokes and we've been talking smack, but in the end, all that matters is the big skull showing up from fatigue.
And there is a way that Fino could have played around this. If he'd gone for Zola with a shuffle card, Elise or Direhorn, that could have given him the extra card he needed to get further in fatigue. Instead, he went for Elise on the
Oh, there
the
comes the
Direhorn
blast shield as
Matriarch.
well. 1 turn,
1
too
turn
late.
too late. And we can see here clearly nothing Fino can do. He throws his
Yeah.
hands over his head. That is just going to be it.
It's so soul-crushing as well,
Yeah.
sitting so long and trying to do this everything correct and you're just losing out in the end. 1 turn away, basically, because you could really swing the other way just because who had the 1 fatigue going into this.
And here we are. We're finally on the other side through that odd warrior mirror, which Kel Surprise went to another fatigue match. And it does mean that Fino, after a pretty a perfect run yesterday, going up to, what was he, 5-1 at the start of this series.
He needs the, well, you need the more, you need a more clear board, and it gets punished by a lot of things. So he's
Nice.
basically saying, well, I rather want to get this Arcane Tyrant on board using the Nourish for basically just giving you 2 mana, because instead of playing 5 mana for
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's like you're playing a 3 mana 4/4 instead
Yeah.
of a 5 mana 4/4. I like this a lot from Fino because, like I said, the way he wins this game is by removing minions, then setting up a big board. I wouldn't have liked an immediate Whispering Wood Soul of the Forest there, even though he has double Savage Roar in hand, because a couple of trades and then Reckless Flurry, it's too much of his stuff removed. He needs to be holding back a little bit here. Then you follow up after you've cleared the board with your big 1-2 punch of building a board, then buffing it.
It's also the fact that when the warrior has armor, they can do the Reckless Flurry brawl and then armor up afterwards.
Good point.
And which is always it clears almost everything.
Yeah.
And it's always so sad to see. So you really want to like have them on low armor count, so they have to armor up as well, using the whole turn just for doing that.
And here we go. This is the turn. It's been cleared up. Hero Power can take out the BGH, and it demands an answer right now from Hoej. If he doesn't have it, the game's over, and Fino just wins. But if he does have it, the game definitely still carries on. Fino is far from out of the game.
And we see Hoej has the answer for this.
Yes, he does. He does.
He has double brawl is one answer. Reckless Flurry brawl is the other answer.
Yeah, 1 mana off double brawl on this turn.
Yeah. It's not that... Fino has been like on 10 mana for so long, so I was like, oh, of course Hoej is on 10 mana.
You always get confused against Druid, huh?
Yeah.
And it's not the only option here of Reckless Flurry Brawl, because that's a couple of your most powerful cards committed to the board. It's probably the answer we're going to see. Brawl first, then Reckless Flurry, I suppose.
It works.
But we
we
could have seen like Mind Control Tech Super Collider, I guess, but you're still leaving too much stuff on the board because making 2/2s is even better for your opponent than just leaving the 1/1s there. So,
like if you only Reckless Flurry now, it will be a 2/2 on board. If it Shield Slams Reckless Flurry, it will be a clear
I
board.
don't think that's worth
No,
it. I think he's thinking about Mind Control Tech, to be honest, which is a consideration. Maybe that can help him pull back the board, because if he goes
7 minions,
yeah. Like, but if he goes for Reckless Flurry here and is met with Whispering, if he goes for that here and is met with another board, the Reckless Flurry, then we see Whispering Wood's Whispering Wood Soul of the Forest. This could be the board for Fino that sticks, even after emoting to his opponent, after clearly being pretty upset that the clear was there. He has another full board, which Hoej has to find an answer for.
Yeah, and he needs the second Reckless Flurry to actually answer this. And this is the strength of the Token Druid, just making continuously better and better boards.
Yeah.
The Control Warrior didn't have this problem. It was a super favorite matchup for the Control Warrior because you have Warpath. And you have
It wasn't
and
really
you have
close.
Reckless Flurries and Brawl and everything. And Warpath just clears any board the Token Druid can put out. But
that's a free win.
But here it's much tougher.
Now we're going to have to see the suboptimal lines that Hoej avoided taking last time because it probably led to his ultimate demise.
He can do the Brawl Super Collider. It still leaves 5 minions on board. And
it's the best he's got, isn't it? Outside of that, it's Ziliak's Mind Control Tech.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have to attack with Ziliak's then. He can just use it to soak up 2.
Brawl Ziliak's?
Yeah, that's worth considering as well.
You can...
That's still so much stuff on the board, though.
Yeah. You can Mind Control Tech Sola, Mind Control Tech Shield Slam. No, you don't have mana. No, you don't have...
Yeah.
That removes 2 minions. So that's still down to 5 minions. It's the same as the Brawl Super Collider play.
I mean, we can see pretty much everything he goes for will lead to him losing.
Yeah, because of the double buff, Ziliak's here, Sola, Ziliak's, armor. And this should be lead. I haven't done the math yet, but like a full board double Savage Roar is 9 out of 10 times it's lethal.
Yeah. With the hero power taking out the Ziliak's as well, it's just so much damage. Even a swipe thrown in there as well. And I think that is going to be Fino equalizing the game 2 games apiece. And now it's going to be a straight-up Token Druid mirror to be taking the series.
Yes, and the list is pretty similar, even though Fino only runs one strong scavenger. It's still a pretty similar list, and it's the same foundation, basically.
Very much the same foundation. The difference being, I think, the difference being, that's not what I think. Hoej has 1 Spellstone and 2 Scavengers, whereas Fino has the somewhat more standard, I guess, anti-aggro list of double Spellstone and 1 Strong Shell Scavenger, which I would have to imagine works in Hoej's favor. You just want the cards that buff and the cards that make wide boards, whereas Spellstone is going to be a pretty dead card most of the time.
What it removes? It removes a Treant, or if you're lucky, it removes a Sirenite Chain Gang that's been buffed. But most of the times you rather just want the extra buff from the scavenger.
And I'm amazed that this series, despite the fact that it is a complete mirror in terms of decks, in terms of classes, has got so close. It's just gone counter, 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 even though most of the time they weren't really counters, to be honest. It was like Odd Warrior into Odd Warrior. It was Token Druid up against Odd Warrior, which I think is a good matchup, but far from unlosable. And this does make me maybe question Hoej's decision to go for Token Druid into Odd Warrior. He did win in the end the Odd Warrior mirror, even with Fino getting pretty lucky with another Elise off of the Pinata. So I guess maybe he just mapped out that he was so favorable in that it was worth going for the Odd Warrior. It's a close decision though, I imagine.
Yeah. And it's really interesting to see now how this pans out, because now it's all up to different draws. And I saw Hoej has a special thing in his list that you didn't mention and haven't written down. He has a Scenarios.
Oh, he has Scenarios in there. I did not realize that.
And that changes the matchup as well.
That changes it quite drastically. I think the main reason why Scenarios enters the Token Druid list at all is the mirror.
Yeah, it's really good in the mirror, and it's really good in general, just in matchups where you can stick a big board, but you don't necessarily have the buffs to push through, or you have to push through a lot of taunts. So Savage Roar just kills your minions still, but Scenarios does something completely different.
So both players here, as we see the Scenarios being picked up with a little bit of ramp for both sides. Wild Growth for Fino, Nourish for... Wild Growth for Fino, Nourish for Hoej. They're both going to be wanting to get through to that Ultimate Infestation fairly quickly to get the resources they need to set up a really big board. But even before then, there's going to be a pretty big struggle for just mid-game dominance. And it's interesting how both players are going to be approaching this, with Fino going with the only real play he had of Saronite on 4, but Hoej not responding in like. He's instead going with Whispering Woods, it would seem.
I love playing Whispering Woods versus Druid on 4, because the only card that's answered is this swipe.
Yeah.
And it's not something you usually keep when it's a but Fino rips it up the top, so it doesn't matter at all. But yeah, if you don't have swipe, you're so far ahead.
Yeah. Oh, and with the pickup of Savage Soul of the Forest off the top, we could see that would have been real bad for Fino if he hadn't found that.
And Hoej still emotionless, as always. It's like, well, that's the gamble as well, though. You gamble because playing the Saronite there just challenges the other Saronite. It doesn't do anything, but Whispering Woods gives you a strong board lead.
It does. It gave him a decent board. It wasn't absurd, though. Like, if the Whispering Woods stuck around, he hadn't drawn Soul of the Forest yet. So the benefit of having it there, I think, was basically just hoping that it trades evenly with the Saronites. Whereas
or
if he
draws a buff, though.
Yes, so he's thinking, I go for this here and hopefully it trades evenly. Whereas if he goes for his own Saronite and is met with a Strong Shell Scavenger, that's basically not game over, but he is so far behind at that point because of the big, beefy board that Fino has made.
We see Fino here taking the aggressive line, though. He recognizes that this is how he wins. He buffed up only 2 minions with the Branching Path just to push 4 extra damage to face. And Hoej is already down to 16 HP. And I've discussed this a lot with Lorinda as well. And the thing about whenever you use Branching Paths for anything else in damage, it feels horrible. But in this case, you might have to use it for armor because you're getting pushed so far down. But Hoej, on the other hand, has his Malfurion ready if he wants to go that route. Fino, on the other hand, is sitting with another Savage Roar to just push through even more damage and maybe even finishing it off before he can get to the Ultimate Infestation.
I really like what we're seeing from Fino here. I think this is a brilliant demonstration of the way this matchup has evolved, or the way this deck in general has evolved, where it's just much less rigid now. You don't have to play it in the traditional way like we saw Fino play it in the last game with Whispering Soul of the Forest, Whispering Soul of the Forest, then you buff up. You just make a decent-sized board, and Hoej doesn't have a great way of responding to it.
Yeah, even if he picks the taunts there every time.
Yeah.
But even then, they get traded into so easily because 1-5 doesn't go well with 4-3s.
Fino here wondering how on earth could you rope out a Malfurion there on that turn? What on earth could be better than that?
If Fino draws another Saronite Chaingang, he would love his one Scavenger now. Yeah, seeing here now, you can trade away, use the Spellstone on the other one.
Yeah, full board clear.
And just put up a juicy board that's hard to respond for Hoej.
Yeah, some consideration to just not attacking into it at all because it's better against Spreading Plague. Because obviously he could then not sacrifice off his Scarab, but it's not much better because he basically gets the same thing back again. He just gets a Scarab for sacrificing a Scarab.
But yeah, spreading plague, hero power here is pretty good. Clears off one of the minions, makes it hard to punch through. And next turn you can, if Fino continues with board development, you get spreading plague solo the forest.
Yeah.
And then you have the backswing with the Savage Roar just killing you. Or killing Fino. So this is also the trap in the, because you want to go wide, so your Savage Roars and branching paths has more, does more damage in the mirror. But the problem is also that makes their opponent's spreading plague much better. One of the better minions though in this matchup to go wide with is the Saronites, because they're probably the beefiest minions you have.
Yeah, that's fair.
And with like a scavenger now, you basically can value trade into all these spreading plagues.
And it does seem again like there's little choice here, to be honest. The Scenarios I don't think is worth it on this turn, even for the, well, obviously for the taunt, it just doesn't get the job done. And I think Fino feels the same way. He's laughing when he sees the plague come down, because what else could Hoej do on this turn to survive? There's really nothing else that would keep him in this game outside of maybe giggling into Floop giggling or something like that.
I'm seeing Fino here now. His hand is like, he's one turn away from Ultimate Infestation with the coin, which is always horrible. And Soul of the Forest thing, like 3 minions isn't necessarily what he wants to do. And so he just rips the Savage Roar just to try to punch through all these things. But it's still not good trades because of the 4 damage, and it doesn't trade up well. And it's still more of those...
Yeah, you got to be careful in this matchup with playing Soul of the Forest, because it like the fact that it means you can't sacrifice off your own minions into an opposing spreading plague means you can't counter plague them. If you see like they go for a big board of plagues, you sacrifice off your minions, make a bigger plague, and then Soul of the Forest it. But Fino doesn't have spreading plague. If he was to see another plague from Hoej here, not playing the Soul of the Forest wouldn't be better. And I think this is the way to go for Fino, because it's starting to become pretty obvious. Fino has to play quite quickly, I think. Hoej's got the Death Knight. Fino needs to go UI next turn into hopefully winning the game the turn after.
And Hoej has the option of UIing here, but he also has the option of the Scavenger.
Strong Shell Scavenger, yeah, that
buffing them up.
Pretty good to me.
And he can also use the hero power either for armor or just clearing off one of these minions if he wants.
And it means then that Fino kind of has to find his own spreading plague in a timely fashion.
And you usually do that when you use your Ultimate Infestation.
Interesting choice here from Hoej to attack into all his opponent's minions. Again, I don't think that's necessarily the easiest decision, because it allows for Fino, if he had a spreading plague, to sacrifice off all these minions and go for a plague of his own. But then I guess going one level further, Hoej has Hoej has Scenario, so he could just destroy that spreading plague. It does get really complicated really quickly.
And Fino picks up both the Tyrants there, so he can make the biggest board he can ever play. And with the more buffs and a swipe to clear off something and stuff like that, he needs to bank on this is one of his final pushes for lethal. And Hoej isn't that healthy. Is at 13 health, meaning that there's very few minions that actually has to go through. Like if 2 minions go through, if it's one of the Tyrants, and if 2 minions in general go through, if it's double buff, it basically kills Hoej.
And I have to imagine whatever Hoej does here, it is going to have to be a very defensive play, lest he just be dying to all that damage that's inevitably going to come through from Fino on the following turn, given that it is a post Ultimate Infestation turn. So now, what are his options then? If he does need to make a defensive play, does he have to go UI to take one of them out? Does he have to go Scenarios? He could go Scenarios for buff, is probably better. It's a fairly defensive play.
UI here also clears a lot if he just value trades a lot.
It clears enough off. He could get a Tyrant very likely off the top with this, which would mean he wouldn't have to burn a card, as we see there.
Perfect.
I guess he can consider holding it back for Spreading Plague if he's thinking he's going to lose board here. But I think he can anticipate to stay up.
I think if he plays it now, he sets up his own counter lethal with double Savage Roar.
Because this is what Scenarios is affording Hoej, which is a very, very big part of the mind games in this matchup, I think, which is that if they reach a kind of, Mexican standoff with the Spreading Plagues, where they're both just staring each other down, like a stalemate, Hoej can break that stalemate very easily with Scenarios.
Yeah,
he can buff his own minions to a better point and then just win in the Plague off.
And not only Scenarios, he has the extra Scavenger as well. He basically makes better Plague boards.
I agree.
Fino here, on the other hand, is now trying to count what will kill me from this spot. Will double Savage or kill me? Will most, yeah. And it's like, yeah, you're 33 health.
He's likely dead to pretty much everything. He just has to be making defensive plays on this turn, which takes the form of Malfurion, Spellstone away, the Ghoul, Hero Power, Trade. You can clear off all but 2 minions here, which is really not bad. Set up a couple taunts in the meanwhile. Because what does everything else do? He needs to find his Soul of the Forest to go for Whispering Woods.
The Swipe Pair is pretty juicy as well, but it's...
I think Malfurion
Yeah, Malfurion is better because it gives the taunts as well. And then, like the taunts
you
you
need.
need...
This is clever, yeah. This is the right way to do it. Again, going for the Hero Power first, in case anyone's wondering, because that gets him 1 attack and 1 armor. He only needs 1 attack to deal with what he wants.
Smart. He's smart.
Oh, wow,
Oh,
okay.
face, yeah.
Even taking the far less valuable in terms of stats Spellstone here, just because he wants to push for lethal on the following turn. This is a smorktastic play, to say the least.
And this also forces Hoej to be more defensive than he probably likes to be.
It's going to be a really scary board made for Hoej, though. If it's Cenarius Spellstone, which is the first thing I'm looking at, that means very easy trades on this turn. Yeah, it's just the way to go. It makes such a big board that has to be answered by Fino. And even if it is answered by Spreading Plague, value trades are taken all day for Hoej very, very easily.
Yeah, because of big minions. The demigod's favor. Yeah, he's wondering if he's going to trade away something for Spreading Plague value, if he doesn't trade away the 4/3.
Oh, that's true.
Because the 4/3, like
Yeah,
the other minions trade perfectly into the...
I think the fact that he just doesn't need to worry about Plague. He needs to worry about Plague Soul. Plague Soul of the Forest is the only thing he's weak to here.
As we see, Fino doesn't have anything.
He's got the Soul of the Forest, but he still needs to find himself that Plague to go along with it. He's going to be tanking so much damage here, though. That's 9, 16, plus 32. It's lethal. Yeah. It's just lethal here, I think.
Double Savage Roar.
9, 16,
yeah, double Savage Roar,
32.
Yeah.
I count it as 38 damage, I think. Yeah.
Hoej is just counting everything up. He didn't do the sequence addition, and he needs to use his own turn to actually count everything up. But yeah,
double and triple checking. But I think, as we can agree upon, it is going to be lethal here, which means Hoej, Frederick Hoej, not his brother Nikolai Hoej, is going to be advancing up to 6-1 in the Swiss record. Fino going down to 5-2, which means Hoej is looking to be in really good contention. We're getting through to the top 8 tomorrow.
Yeah, and Fino, on the other hand, will continue playing for the top 32 spot for points, but most likely it will be really rough to actually get into the top 8.
I don't want to call it impossible because I haven't had a look at the tiebreakers yet. I agree it's unlikely, though, that he'll make it.
Right about now.